Uh, can't help but mention this one, and interesting to get the thoughts of three longtime Marion residents. Boy, we're talking about heroin nowadays, aren't we? It's just
Wow,
everywhere. It's
it's
in your
frightening.
yard. It's in the papers. Last week we had a community forum. Marianne, what have you thought about all this?
Well, it's scary. It really is scary. And I think that's the main problem that we have here in Marion as far as, um, our safety. Because if somebody wants drugs and they need the money to get it, they will do anything to get it. And I don't know why it's so prevalent. I really don't, but it really frightens me.
I think poverty.
That
I think that's a big part of it.
that
Yeah.
that could
Last
be.
week I watched live the discussion with the Ohio legislature. The committee is on the Medicaid issue. And there was one judge from Hocking County on there who deals every day with this problem. He said their jails are crowded. They can't put any more in jail. They need Medicaid to help try to institute some programs to rehab these people, but they don't have this now. And the thing that I've changed my attitude on how this all began, over prescribing opiates, painkillers, and a lot of these people end up with so much in painkillers they sell it on the street to buy more.
I think they do, but I think there's a good portion of those people, and just my opinion here, but I believe some sell it to get more. I agree with that. But I think some sell it to get money, because I think there is a big poverty problem going on, certainly in Marion, and I'm not really sure what it stems from. I mean, I think it's easy to say no business. I mean, of course, that's going to create poverty. But Upper Sandusky's doing pretty well, and Delaware's doing pretty well, and I'm not sure where our thing is. And nobody seems to talk about the poverty as an adjunct to heroin. And I think it's a big one. I think it's
never
a
thought
big
of it
connection.
that way. I really never did.
I just feel as Mary Ellen, you came back to Marion after being gone for several years, and certainly can't help but see this heroin problem on the television. What do you make of it?
Well, I tell you, it was sort of a surprise for me. You just don't think of Marion as having those problems, but everybody tells me it does. And I just have to mention, way back in the beginning when I was U.S. Treasurer, we were having a big meeting, and they were talking about, what was on money, and they said drugs is on money. It's just there. And that surprised me. I thought it's that bad that it's on the money, And you wouldn't think, would you?
I wouldn't think that.
No.
It's very peculiar to me how I didn't like the sign thing. I'll say that. For those people who put the signs out, heroin.
No, but it worked.
What did it accomplish, though, Charlie? What did it
Did you
accomplish?
see all the drug busts after that?
I saw the drug bust,
Oh.
but did it alert the? I'm not sure what.
No, I think it got law enforcement stirred up quite a bit, and to fend off the public opinion that they aren't doing their job as well as they could. All of a sudden, you find they're busting people all over town.
But didn't it also, and this was my worry, didn't it also say to every business and every person who wants to put their kid in school here that don't come to this town? I mean, we got a big problem.
All the towns are alike all around us. We're not much of an exception. Bucyrus or Crawford County, all these towns, they're up to their ears in heroin.
They are, but I don't think they're getting the press we're getting. I don't think they're getting on the all the Columbus news stations last week talking about an unprecedented crowd turns out for heroin opiate talk. That's not good for the people who want to relocate here. That's not good for the business people. Yes, we have to address the problem, holy moly. We have to address the heroin problem, but I don't know, putting those yard signs out there, if it shamed the cops into doing their job better, I don't know, but it certainly didn't help the business.
No, but it sure did bring about a lot more enforcement. Probably a lot of places were being watched for a long time. All of a sudden they decide they better bust them instead of just watching and waiting for more evidence or whatever.
So what would be the thinking of why they weren't busting them before?
Well, our courts demand so much evidence. You've got to have, it's like when they close down a highway for an accident for 2 hours to make all the, record everything that happened. We're so intense on all these fine points because if you go to trial, they'll, you'll go free if you can't absolutely prove without any doubt.
Maybe it did do that, and if it did do that, I think it's good, but I think that we're going to have a long time trying to get out of this trench of being labeled a heroin town.
I think a lot of it had to do, with not doing something about it was the crowding in the jails. And I think they that was the big discussion during the elections, that they didn't know, how to handle this.
I'm not sure how we do handle it, and certainly it'd be a guess for any of us, but does anybody have an idea on what we can do? I hear these groups getting together, but I don't know that they're doing anything.
What do you do when every jail cell is occupied?
Yes.
You have no other place to put
That's right.
any of these people. Do you try to rehab them? And where do you get the money? And this is where the Medicaid thing comes in. And if everybody could have watched this live testimony at the legislature the other day, even Jody DeMahadjans was there, and she was on for quite a while testifying on how Medicaid funds are needed to help get into this rehab business. Rehab doesn't always work, but something's got to be done.
Now, where is all this heroin coming from? What's the origin?
It's from overseas, but down through Mexico and into Detroit and Chicago, and then the pipeline from Detroit to Marion.
Yes, that's...
But, is it Detroit to Marion, or is it Detroit to this area? Because as you said...
the area,
yeah. But that's what I say, it's become this idea of Marion, and being born here and being here for 30-plus years now, I don't really like... I don't like it being here, first of all, who would? But I don't like the stigma that's being put on, because we are in a bad economic way, period. And I don't know how we're going to crawl out of that, people thinking that we're overrun with heroin. That is not going to happen. I think we have to address the heroin problem, but I don't think we can do it by putting those signs in people's yard. I don't know. If there was a correlation with more people getting arrested, that's good. But I just didn't like that. I thought it was like a bad billboard of something going on. What do you think, Mary?
Well, I think that's the case in Columbus, even in the Columbus area. I mean, you read about that everywhere. It's just everywhere.
I think it's got to be good to have a doctor on sometime. I asked my doctor, we're hearing about all this overprescribing painkillers. But the thing is, if they don't do something this way in providing painkillers, then they could be cited for malpractice because they didn't administer enough painkillers. Well, it's a vicious circle.
It is. It sounds like.
I think it is a vicious circle. I also think, why don't we, in any town, but we're talking about Marion, so here it is, why don't we talk about the poverty? Because I think shoplifting is on the rise. I think homelessness is on the rise. Food pantries are empty. They did not used to be. And we're having this heroin epidemic. I think all those things go together. And I'm not sure why in 10 years we've not been able to get any kind of act together. And I'm not placing the blame totally on the politicians, because if their hands are tied, their hands are tied. But where are the CEOs, the people who are willing to put money into a community to develop? And maybe some of it does fall on the politicians. Charlie, do you believe we're well off financially?
I don't think we're as bad off as sometimes we're depicted as.
What do you think?
All you got to do is drive out on Mount Vernon Avenue, bumper to bumper traffic, people shopping. Yes, they are using their credit cards, but
what's on the rise here,
we're
Charlie?
overflowing with people buying and selling and whatever.
Dollar stores and drug stores. We're on the
that's
upswing.
a lot of it, sure.
I think that's. Mary Ellen, certainly you know money. Is there a correlation between that?
Well, frankly, I think the economy's getting better. I'm going to turn this around. It's getting depressing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, you're right. The economy is getting
I
better.
think that's true.
I
Yeah.
tell you, the semis on the road are everywhere. I always base that on my analysis of the economy, and I just think we're doing better than we were, and I just paid my income tax.
Yeah, I do think we certainly are better than we were 4 or 5 years ago. I just think that's when the problem possibly started. Because I don't think this drug thing is new.
And we have, we've got a lot of food banks and a lot of distribution of food, but even some of the people that are going after this food are cheating.
Well,
They're allotted so much, but if you turn your back, they'll take twice as much.
well, is that the times? Is that people's way of doing things? What is that?
Well, I
What's
don't
that
know.
a sign of?
I don't know. To me, there's a screwball picture out there. Here we have food banks on one side, and the other side, people are spending money like crazy.
I think there's a big divide.
And then Whirlpool want 150 people, and they can't get them. So what's the story?
Well, I'll tell you something interesting that I know that I don't see too much reported on. Have you been aware of how many retail stores and food restaurants who used to do drug testing don't do it anymore?
I wouldn't be aware of that. I wouldn't know that.
If
I
they
didn't even know
tested
that
it,
they did
Why,
drug
is
testing.
that
They'd lose
true?
all their
That's true.
employees.
Well, I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think the employee would go down because I think even the lower grade drugs that would show up as illegal, marijuana, for example, you would fail a drug test, and they need help. People need help, and nobody.
And that's never publicized enough. The fact that there's all these job openings that cannot be filled because the people won't pass the test. Does that ever enter the statistics the government puts? Unemployment figures are up this month. Why are they up?
Well, I don't understand every time because I like to think that the government is doing better. I want to think like Mary Ellen thinks and believes, and I do too. But I am tired of hearing every time they put out a good statistic, it's always, but people have dropped out of the workforce. That's why we have a better statistic. People are,
They're not
are they?
looking anymore.
I mean, is that true? Has anybody looked into that in any deep discussion?
I think they're just trying to make it look bad.
I think so.
I honestly
Yeah.
think that's a depressive thing to the good numbers that are coming out, and I don't pay attention to it.
I don't even, when I used to read that, what does this mean and how accurate is it? Because they would always attach that to the numbers. This many unemployed, but that's because la-di-da-di. I think it's a strange thing. Another thing